Hi everyone, this is Chris. Thank you for joining me. In today's video, we're going to be making some pumpkin decorations for fall. I think you can't go without any pumpkins, and you can't go wrong either with. So we're going to make these types of pumpkin. They're made out of paper. They're very simple. You can do this with your kids as well, and we're going to make these as well. So I'm going to make the one I'm going to show you are going to be green, but you can make them in any color you want, of course, with orangey colors. Here on this one, I've used some ink, and I inked a little bit the edges to make it a little brownish color so it's not too bright. You could do the same thing with these, but it's so simple. So what we're going to do, we're going to start by this one because it needs to dry a little bit before we make it. So I'm going to take this paper, it's pattern paper, and you can do as many circles like we're going to do here as you wish. The more you do, the fluffier, the more filled it will look, but it's totally up to you. You don't have to put that much because it's really nice. I don't know what to do with this kind of paper, you know, with all these numbers on it, but I thought it would look great for something like this pumpkin. So the only thing that I also thought was not convenient is that I have a white background. So what I did here, if you're in the same case, and this is not heavy cardstock, it's really thin cardstock, is that I have folded my paper in half. It's a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. And to make it easy, I just used my double-sided tape here, and I put tape everywhere, and I really did a good coverage. And go right up to the edge. You see, I'm using this double-sided tape so often, I really needed something cheap. And honestly, this thing is cheap when you look at what you pay for the length you have. So, as you can see here, I've done quite a lot. And I'm just going to double it up, fold it back on itself, and now I have double-sided paper. Okay? Then what you're going to do, and you can make these in any size you want. You're going to take, for example, a little cup like this. You're going to use some heavy cardstock. This one is a bit too small. I'm going to use this one. And you're going to make your template. So here, I think it's going to be maybe a bit small. I should have my other template around here. There it is. So, yeah, it's a bit small. So what you're going to do, you're going to make your first template. You're going to go around, and you're not going to go completely around. You're going to position the other circle just like so. So it's going to make not a complete closed circle. It's going to make two circles with a little notch here in the middle, in the center, you can see. And this is going to be your template. And I'm just going to fold it in half because that's kind of the way we're going to doing it. And also it makes it a little bit more sturdy when we're going to try to cut around. So once you have this pattern cut out, I think it's also much quicker, because this is thin paper, to fold it back on itself another time, because these measurements are absolutely perfect. And again, you can make it the size you want. And here, what you're going to do, maybe I'm going to even do it this way. I'm going to fold it this way, so I'm not going to lose that much of paper. So it's going to be more economical. I'm just trying to fold it this way. All right. So I'm going to be able to cut several times into my paper. So it's going to make it faster. And I'm just going to use this as my guide. And I'm going to cut all around here. And I have used actually 2 pieces of 12 by 12, 2 sheets of 12 by 12. You could, again, use more if you wanted to. You could use a plain color. And you're going to do this as often as you can in these 2 sheets. Again, if you want to use more, go ahead. So I'm going to cut all of these and I'll be back in just a second. Back. I'm absolutely sorry. I had technical issues. I couldn't keep on shooting this video and I didn't have time to record it again, so I had to do a voiceover on the French version, so please excuse me for this. Okay, so let's get back to it. Here I've cut out all my circles, or 2 pairs of circles, and I'm really piling up all these circles on top of each other because I didn't want to waste any paper. Some of them are just single, they're not doubled up, so I'm putting them also there to make it a little more fluffy or filled if you wish. So when you pile them up, make sure that they're all even as much as possible to make them really straight, and then we're going to use glue to glue them down. So there are 2 ways of doing this. You can use hot glue, but I don't really like hot glue for this project because it's a little bit too thick and it may cause issues when you want to open it. So I'm going to use a quick drying glue, and you'll see that in a minute. It's a glue that I really appreciate. It's quite thick, but it's a really good glue. So any kind of quick drying glue will do for this, and these paper clips are going to help keep in place all the papers while it's drying. I'm using here a skewer to apply the glue on the surface, and this is the glue I'm using, and I'm really trying to apply it really nicely and also inside there a little bit in between the papers to make sure that there's going to be a very good bond. So you keep on putting glue all along the edge there, and then we're going to put it aside. Alright, now while this is drying, I have already cut out some leaves. They're supposed to be flowers in the beginning. I've cut my felt with dies, but they're going to look like leaves right now, and we're going to use these to put on the top of our pumpkins, and we're going to do the other pumpkins while the other ones are drying. So I have different sizes and different shapes. It doesn't really matter, and if you don't have any dies, well, you just can cut them out with your scissors and that'll do the trick as well. And you don't have to use felt either. You can also use paper. You can use foam, why not? Any other material will do for this. You can mix and match the materials. So now for our next pumpkins, we're going to use some strips of paper. And the strips I'm using can be done in any length and any width. For example, the one in my right hand are done with a paper that is 1 centimeter large. The other one on the left hand has strips that are 2 centimeters wide. So you can really make it as big. If you want to make it much bigger, you need to have strips that are longer, and you can use the width of what you prefer. I like both, actually. I think they're both very nice. They look different, and that's what I like too in these projects. For example, in this one, I've used 13 strips of paper. You can use less, you can use more, depending on how big you want the holes in between, the gaps in between, but that's totally up to you. The other things that you will need to put your pumpkins together are some brads. So for the small ones and the bigger ones, I'm using small brads, but you can use bigger ones. The small brads are going to be more limited with the quantity of strips you're going to use because it's going to be thick, and these are quite small, but honestly you can use whatever you want. And if you don't have brads, you could also use a wire and make a loop on either sides of the wire to replace the brads if you want to. A guideline, the measurements are about 10 centimeters long. That's what I use here for the pumpkin that I have in my hand. It's just to give you an idea of how big it's going to be afterwards. So again, you put a little hole just to make sure that your brads will fit there. It doesn't have to be a big hole on both sides of your strips. Once this is done, you're going to use your brads and you're going to start piling up all the strips. Again, here I've used 13. You can use more. And you're going to put your brads on both sides of the strips of paper. Spread here is just the right size for all my layers, and I can just barely open it, but that's enough. And I'm really making sure with my bone folder that everything is flat and is going to be secure. Once this is done, you're going to start separating all your strips of paper, and it's going to start taking its shape. Naturally, you'll see that it's going to start to form like a sphere. And separate them. Be careful depending on what type of paper you've used. I've used medium cardstock. You can use heavier cardstock if you wish. It doesn't really matter. It's just, I think medium cardstock is just good to keep it in place. Some thinner paper make it a bit too flimsy, according to my experience and the ones I've done previously, especially when I was younger. And you're going to keep on separating them like this until you're happy with the shape. Take your time with this. Once you're happy with it, you're going to take your felt and you're going to glue that piece of felt on top. You can also put it on the bottom if you want to, because it's going to stand better. It's not going to stay completely straight. So you can put these leaves, I'm going to call them leaves, on top and on the bottom. I'm only going to put one on top, and that'll do the trick. And then I'm using hot glue for this because it's really drying quickly too. And then I'm using scrap pieces of brown felt to do what I'm going to call the tail. I'm not sure about the name of it, or the stem of the pumpkin. I never throw away anything, especially not my scraps, because you see here, we can still use it even though it's not big. It's going to be very useful, so don't throw away your scraps. You never know what we're going to be able to do with it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue there, and I'm coming a little closer to show you that. Again, a little bit of hot glue here in the beginning, and I'm going to roll it. You don't need much. Don't get too close from the edge, or otherwise the hot glue might seep through. And if you young people are watching this video, please ask an adult to help you with hot glue, because you can really burn yourself really hard. And now I'm adding more hot glue to close my felt. And keep it in place, okay? Take your time with this to really make it secure. And you can make them very thin, you can make them larger, and then you're going to adjust it. So this one is way too long for my little pumpkin, so I'm going to trim it about half the size of what it is right now. I think it's going to be enough. And I'm going to cut it on an angle, not completely straight. And I will be able to adjust this a little later as well. So this is the part that I'm going to glue down. But first, what I'm going to do is bend it a little bit, because the stems or the tail of the pumpkin is never really straight. It's got to come like a little curve. So to make it stay, I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue there and give the shape I want. Like so. Yeah, I've got a little bit of excess here, so I'm using a silicone spatula to take it away. And now I'm going to be able to glue the base to my pumpkin. Again, hot glue. Hot glue is my favorite tool. What is your favorite tool in crafting? I would be curious to know. Please let me know in the comments below. What is your favorite tool, or the tool you could never work without, that you have always on your table and use almost every time? For me, it's my hot glue gun. It can be maybe, I don't know, your trimmer. I use my trimmer a lot too, but I think the hot glue gun is what I use the most in almost all my crafts, except maybe for jewelry making. So here it's still a bit too long and too pointy, so I'm going to trim off the end there and make it a little rounder, and I think I'm going to call it good. So this pumpkin is now done. You could add more leaves if you wanted to embellish it more, but I think this is quite cute. And honestly, it's easy. You could do this with your children or grandchildren. And as you can see, the difference between this one and the other is that I've inked the edges with a little bit of distress ink in a brownish color. I think it gives it more interest than just plain orange, but that's totally optional. But if you do that, I would consider doing it before putting your pieces together. It's going to be much easier. And this one is just flat, bold orange. And this other one that is whiter is also very nice as well. I like the shape of it too. It's really cute. And again, I'm squishing it down, this one, to give it more a oval shape, not completely round. It's not an orange. It's a pumpkin. It's a little bit flat on the edges. Okay, so now let's get back to our first project. So the glue there is almost dry, and we're going to start separating all our circles there and start putting it in shape. Before applying the leaf on the top of it, it's better to do it before, because when you're going to apply the hot glue, it may not have the shape you really want to it, and it's going to be more difficult to play with it later. Actually, I have found a way to make things easier, which means that because I didn't want to stay in place like I wanted just on my paper, I've used this, I don't know how you call that, that sticky thing that you put on your wall to put posters, poster sticker, I don't know how you call that. I'm sure you recognize what I mean by just seeing it. So I decided to put my pumpkin there so it's going to stick to it, and it's going to help me put all my circles in place and stick there just for a while, just enough to put the leaves on top. It makes things much easier. Otherwise, they keep on coming back where they're used to be in the beginning. So this is why I'm doing this, and I recommend you doing the same. You can use maybe dough for that. It's something that is going to help just place all your circles while I'm gluing down the leaf. And I'm going far away now. I'm putting glue all on this on my felt. So I'm going to make sure that way that also all the parts are going to be glued and are not just go on one way or another and be stuck together. That's the best thing I have found to do. It's a little trick that I wanted to share with you. Otherwise, it's going to drive you crazy. If you want to separate them and make them look nice, that's easier. And then after, you will still be able to put them more in place. But now that the felt is there with the hot glue, it's going to help you a lot. And I've also prepared this little tail. That's the other half that I've used previously. And again, I'm going to put it there, put a little bit of glue to put it in shape so it's not completely straight. And then I'll glue it down to my pumpkin. And really, it doesn't look like it's great from the top, but from the side, when you look at it, it's really nice. I think it would need a little bit more, honestly. I think it should need maybe at least 10 more to make it a bit more filled, if you wish. But even though it's not completely filled, I think it's really nice. It's nice looking. The colors are really bright, and you could use any kind of color with this. You could use browns. You could use different shades of browns. You could use ochre as well, because there are so many kinds of pumpkins out there with different colors. Any kind would be great. Just make them different sizes, different shapes, and different colors, and it's going to be gorgeous. So here are a few examples of the one I made. You've got, let's say, two big differences, and the smallest one, it looks different also depending on the width of your strips of paper. So really, I hope you will enjoy doing this because it's really simple. You can use, for the smallest one, your scrap pieces of paper because you won't need that many strips. And it's really fun to do. When it's rainy outside, I think it's absolutely fun. So please, if you like this video, give me some thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments. Don't forget to answer me about what is your favorite crafty tools. And also share on social medias. So thank you very much for being here today. And I hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.